Kimmie Cantrell clay faces. After we watched our video about Kimmie Cantrell's artwork, I was really inspired about the interesting shapes and designs that make up his work. These faces are abstract. They're changed on purpose. So once you got started making a sketch in pencil, I'd like you to go ahead and outline with a marker. Now that you've outlined it with a marker, we're going to learn a way that you can transfer this idea into your clay. Don't worry about any mistakes. Those won't show up. I went ahead and I took some of these clay slabs and I started making some textures into my clay. You don't want your clay to be paper thin. I'd rather have you have your clay too thick than too thin. This is more of the thickness that I need in your clay. So take your image and start to transfer it, or I'm just rubbing my idea, my marker, into the clay. Don't worry about the image. It'll go ahead and disappear once it goes through the kiln. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut away the leftover clay that I don't need for this project. Sometimes I find it easier to redraw or draw with my tool onto the clay and then I'll cut through. I found that to be a lot easier. In case I had any mistakes, it's a lot easier to erase. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it after I've drawn into the clay. Now that I've got my basic starting point, it might be a good time to put your name on the back as well. Okay, so now that I've got my mask ready to go, I've taken my finger and added just a little bit of water so that the edges of my mask are not so sharp, and it also takes away any of the rough edges that you might have had when you cut away your project, the extra clay away from your project. So now that you've got a nice smooth outer edge of your project, I'm going to go ahead and take some of my clay, flatten it out into a slab. You'll notice I'll turn it like a pancake so that it's nice and evenly distributed. Once I've got a slab of clay, I can do the same technique again. You can see right through the paper, and I'll just gently rub on the backside again to transfer that same image more than once. Now I've got my eye, and I have a shape that I'm cutting out so that my mask is not so flat. Once I've got my eye placed off to the side, I want to scratch and attach it to the place where it belongs. It's kind of nice having those markers pieces there so that you know exactly where to put it. I'm going to go ahead and take a tool, scratch and attach by adding a little bit of water, placing that down and smoothing out again the extra pieces onto the outside of my project. I'm taking a tool then to redraw. Remember, anything that's in marker will disappear. So please don't leave it in marker. You need to take your tool and make some of those ideas show up into the clay. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Here we go for the second eye. Remember the scratch and attach method? Please make sure you're doing that every time you attach anything onto your clay project. Once again, another reminder, anything that's done in marker onto your clay will disappear into the kiln. So whether you're drawing it on, whether you're taking clay and adding it on, or taking clay away, we need to make sure that all of those items get put into consideration. I hope you have fun making the rest of your Kimmie Cantrell clay face.